Today we're going to talk about the NewTek TriCaster, and you'll have to excuse me if I say NewTek TriCaster because it's only recently that VizRT has purchased NewTek. So it's technically right now the VizRT TriCaster, but I've said the NewTek TriCaster for well over a decade. It's probably 20 years. So it's going to take a little while for me to transition to this. This is not sponsored by NewTek, Vizrt, or any reseller. I own the TriCaster that I'm talking about. I have owned it for almost 10 years, and it was used when I bought it. So I'm not being paid to promote it. I'm not actually promoting. I'm just talking about it. I'm not being compensated in any way. So everything that I'm going to show you today, I actually own. It's my product, so it's not being sponsored or given to me in any way. If you don't know what the TriCaster is, it's basically a live switching production tool. If you watched other videos on this channel, I've talked about all-in-one switching devices, the Duet, just switching hardware, but switching on a computer goes back to the late 90s when NewTek created the video toaster, which ran in an Amiga. And you could bring in 4 composite standard definition sources, switch them, and output a switched feed. And you could either do that with $20,000 hardware or this $4,000 board in an Amiga. So it was like mind-blowing that you're able to do that with consumer hardware and this board. Fast forward a bunch of years, and they've come out with their own hardware, the NewTek TriCaster. And they have different models. They've had, square standalone machines, and all of these machines are basically Windows PC computers. They run Windows, but they're configured in such a way that anything that is not essential to running the TriCaster software, the NewTek software, has been turned off or eliminated. So it's a very custom version of Windows, and it literally boots right into the application, and then the application will boot right into your show, whatever your last show was. So it's a Windows PC, but you use it as an appliance. You buy it to be this video switching tool. They have several different models, but the one I'm going to talk about is the TriCaster Mini. Now the Mini is limited to 4 physical inputs depending on the model you get. The model I have is called the Mini HD, and there was also a Mini SDI. So it had SDI inputs on the front, and mine has HDMI inputs on the front. There we go. That's my TriCaster Mini. That's literally on the floor next to me, right here. Right here, I've got 4 HDMI inputs on the front, and then I've got 2 HDMI outputs for program. There's a line audio input, there's a microphone input, a headphone output, and then a left and right program output. These are all physical inputs on the front of the device. And if you look at the ones that they have now, they still have the audio inputs, but the other inputs have moved to the back of the device, so they're not on the front. But you can see the box. This is on the Vizrt page. It says TriCaster, but the box still says NewTek. So I'm not the only one still calling it NewTek. To control these things, you can purchase a control surface like this. You can get third-party control surfaces. This one's $5.95. This one's $24.95. Or you can scroll down and get their VizRT control surfaces at like $2,500, $4,000. But you can see this. This is a very complicated control surface. You don't have to get a control surface like that to control your TriCaster. You can just use a keyboard and mouse, which is what I'm going to be using for today. You can control them with a Stream Deck. You can control them with third-party hardware. You can get central control and basically hook them to anything. There is Skarhoy makes controllers that will control your TriCaster. So when you're looking to control it, you can start with a keyboard and mouse. Because it is a Windows machine, your keyboard and mouse will get you there and do pretty much everything. So this is the interface. So if you've ever seen a video switcher, you've got your program bus across the top, you can see That's what's active. And then you can see your preview bus at the bottom. I have 8 inputs. Now you're wondering, I said at the beginning it's a 4 input switcher, but there's 8 inputs here. That's because it also, NewTek invented NDI, and NewTek made the TriCaster. So the TriCaster, all the TriCasters can do NDI. So you can have 4 physical inputs, which, like I showed you, I have 4 physical inputs plugged into the front of this thing. But at the same time, I can have 4 more inputs over NDI. And because I have 4 inputs, let's go to input 4. We're going to configure and source. You can see I've got a PTZ optics camera. Let's go grab that one. There it is. So there is a camera right there. You can see there's a little bit of delay because anything working over a network is going to have a little bit of a delay. And you see, click close. You can see I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I got DDR1, input 2. So this interface that you have here with the audio mixer, the switcher, sources, preview, and program, this is configurable. So you can easily just come right up here and say, here's my workspace. And do I want it to look like this, this, this? So you can have it set up for more inputs over here. So if I wanted to see all 8 of my inputs, so here's input 4, input 5, input 6, input 7, input 8. But then your camera inputs are usually not the only thing you need to show. So there's built-in video players, and there's 2 different video players. There's DDR1 for digital disc recorder 1 that you could load up with clips. And then on the other side, there's DDR2. So I can load clips up on either of these, and I can go from one side to the other because they're 2 different sources. Each one, like this one on DDR1, if I started playing, I have 2 clips in here, and I have a list mode engaged right here. So it'll literally go through all of the items, one after the other, which means it's basically going to finish playing this one, play that one, and it'll cycle through them. So I can cycle through all of these different lists. That doesn't seem very functional at first, because it's like, well, I can have 3 videos playing here, and then I can have 3 videos lined up over here, or I can play each one in turn. But what if I have the more to go with a show? I need to have more stuff ready, and I need to like segment it and have it like that. The TriCaster, you hardly notice it, but way over here on the very edge, there's a little bar with an arrow, and it's over here, and it's on the edge of all of these different things. So what you can do is you can have multiple different scenes or sets of data. Right here, there's 12 different sets of data. So if I'm doing an awards show and I need to have different clips ready, and then after each award, I need to have 5 other clips, and another award. I need 5 more clips, and then another award, and 5 more clips. I could just come over here and just go to the second set, and then the third set, and then the fourth set, and the fifth set, and then go back to the first set. And there's my media. It's at the ready. The same with your switcher. I can have a bunch of different preset scenes with different layouts and different setups all at the ready here. So the system has gone through, I'll say, decades of refinement, because the TriCaster has been around for so long that each of these, the way this is laid out, all the little nuances, all the little things that you can do have been established, built, and refined over time. It's very different than some of the tools that I talk about on this show, which are very new, just coming out, still being, new features being added because they're so new, they don't have these features at all. The TriCaster is kind of like the opposite. It's been around for 20 years, and a lot of what's in here has been put in, tweaked, refined, bugs killed, and established many, many years. So you can see up here, here's my DDR1, here's my countdown timer. I've got controls to jump ahead, jump back, pause it, and things like that. I've got an audio meter on here. I've got audio meters on each of my inputs. I've got audio meters on the program window right here. So when it switches back to the first clip, which has audio, you can see the audio is playing here. I've got the ability to stream and encode. You can see my audio level, my ability to record, which is separate from streaming and encoding, is set up there. I can grab a frame, gives me a universal clock, messages, and then I can export. I can take a file that I've recorded and export it as something else. Over here, you can see there's a couple different things. I have my digital disc recorder. I also have a graphics, so I can bring in stills. I can bring in transparencies, PNGs. I can bring in all kinds of graphics. So these all sit here, and then of course I can have them cycle through. So if I want to do a pre-show thing, I can have a pre-show go through 20 different slides, play automatically. There's a gear icon. I can adjust, like, what is the transition between each slide? How long does each slide stay up, and things like that. And then, like I was saying, you can have all of these different sets of data up here. So your pre-show, and then as soon as the pre-show is done, okay, we're going to go to break, the first break. Let me go to the second set. Then I can go to the third set, and then I can go to the fourth set. So that is, again, available in each of these pockets. Then when you click on sound, you can play sounds. So you can load this up with MP3s, waves, whatever type of audio you want. And again, that's over there on the side. You can create a list. So if your pre-show graphics also is going to have 3 different audio clips that you want played in a loop, this is where you would do it. Then how do you determine how loud that sound is in the audio mixer. There's a full-on audio mixer which has the ability to adjust all of your inputs. All of these cameras can be coming in with audio. And then here's your DDR1, your DDR2. Remember, we talked about that over here. And on the other side, those have their own channels. Here's your sound channel. There's an effects channel, aux1, aux2, aux3, and then there's your phones and your master output. So what you're listening to is going to be different than what your master output is. And then, of course, you've also got these are aux outputs. And you can affect those by going into your audio channel, and then you can route things to different channels. So there's a lot of capability. It just looks like a simple stereo audio mixer. It is not. There's a whole lot going on here. There's also processing you can do in terms of an equalizer, compressor and limiter, a noise gate, and various triggers. When certain thing gets a certain level, do this. And then here's your input settings over here, so you can adjust your levels, adjust the pan, adjust the gain of each, and set the source for that particular channel. Why do you think a switcher like the TriCaster Mini costs so much in comparison to a switcher like the Blackmagic Design Mini, or even Constellation switchers with way more inputs and outputs? The TriCaster is not just a switcher. You can't play back a video from an ATEM Mini. You can't play back 2 sets of video and play back audio and create graphics and titles and overlays and virtual environments and move within those virtual environments. And so if you want to compare them, take your ATEM Mini Extreme ISO and then add the cost of the device that's doing playback on 1, the device that's doing playback on 2, the device that's playing their graphics, the device that's playing your audio, the device that's doing your ISO recordings, and you keep going with that. It's all built in with the TriCaster. The ATEM Mini does not do NDI, so you're not going to get networked inputs into it. There's a lot built into this. vMix is going to be at the high end $1,200, but then you're going to spend another $2,000 on the box that's going to be able to do what that does, and then you are going to so you're already $3,500 in. The base TriCaster Mini starts around $5,000. You can also find them used. And for $5,000, you get the PC and you get the TriCaster, which is already built. Like I said, when you boot it up, I plug in 4 inputs. I start hitting 1, 2, 3, and 4. I hit the return button. I'm switching. I didn't have to build anything. Whereas vMix, you have to then spend time. Time is money. You have to spend time to build whatever setup you're going to do to switch your inputs. And vMix, I forgot, you spent $2,000 on a PC. You also need input-output. So add another whatever for your I/O card. Okay, it's 4 physical inputs. So you need to add a DeckLink quad. to your vMix system. And then, of course, this has 2 outputs. So you're going to need 2 output cards. And this is all built into the TriCaster already. Your audio mixer, you've got that in the interface. Whereas if you want to actually do all of this with the audio mixer for an ATEM, you have to add another laptop to do that. So even just to access your audio mixer like I have right here, you're going to need another laptop. How much does the laptop cost? Add all those costs together to get the functionality here. Then you're going to see you're going to end up about the same price, possibly even more, plus functionally getting to an event and getting set up. Putting this on a table, plugging stuff in, you're ready to go in minutes. Whereas to get all of your playback devices, all of your laptops all configured, your network, set up and running with an ATEM is going to take longer. Blackmagic Design won't have NDI probably ever. And I agree with Rick. Continuing on, you can see that we talked about the audio mixer right here and the ability to mix all these channels. You can have, it will work with MIDI, and I think it also works with USB control, so that you can actually add a control surface to this if you wanted to, a dumb audio mixer, but it will control these things remotely or external to the device. So you can give that to someone else and they can physically move the audio mixer controls. Continuing over here, you've got your DDR2, you've got your graphics buffers, but you can set up a second window with just all your preview inputs. You can set up a second output with scopes. You can set a second output with all of your sources, just the sources, so that a director can just be looking at the sources and call a show, whereas the technical director who's pushing the buttons has this interface. And then over here are my buffers. So I created a buffer right here. This is a title, so I can bring this in, and there's my title. And there it goes out. And those titles, there's lots of content baked in. Transitions, but more so in terms of graphics. I wanted to have time to actually try and build a 3D environment, since I've got the green screen here, to actually drop me into a 3D environment. Because extended reality and virtual reality is all the rage these days, but the TriCaster has been doing that for 10 years. You could drop a person into an environment. I'll try to do it. You could drop a person into an environment, and then you could use the T-bar to move in the environment. The virtual environments have been built into the TriCaster. Like it's new everywhere else. It's like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing. The TriCaster has been doing it for over a decade. You can go in here and drop me into behind a desk that doesn't exist, with a monitor next to me that doesn't exist, put content on that monitor, and then move closer to me or further away from me to include the monitor. You can move this environment around, whether you want to be in the corner offset, so you have the monitor. You can change that view, and then you can have multiple versions of that set, so that you can cut close to me with just a corner of the monitor appearing. You can cut to a side view, so then I can turn over here and there's a different set. There's all different things you can do, all built into the TriCaster. Going back to why is it more expensive than an ATEM? That's a reason. If I have an NDI capable PTZ camera and it's connected to the same network as the TriCaster, will I have control of the PTZ functions of the camera from the TriCaster interface as well as the NDI video? Yep. The only thing you need to watch out for is the NDI cameras coming out today use NDI HX3, I should say. My TriCaster is old, and it understands HX1 and HX2, but not HX3. So I tried to actually connect to a camera that is just HX3, and it did not show up in my older TriCaster. So if you're looking to purchase something that's used, you need to be aware that the newest PTZ cameras are going to be using HX3 because it's really cool, effective, fast, and good, and low bandwidth. But they're not going to be, that codec is not going to be understood by an older used TriCaster that came out and was built before that technology became available. NDI video is a variable. You can get an older TriCaster, but if you then get an Osbot PTZ camera, it's not going to see it. Or if you got the new BirdDog X series, my old TriCaster doesn't even see it because it's HX3 and it doesn't understand HX3. If you were to get a new TriCaster, then it's going to be built to today's standards. It's going to understand NDI 6. It's going to understand HX3. It's going to be able to do all of that. It's also going to have newer hardware, a better video card than 5 years ago or whatever. So yes, if you have an NDI PTZ camera and it's connected to the same network as a TriCaster, will I have control over the PTZ functions? Absolutely. And I even did a show about this several weeks ago, and I used this TriCaster and I showed how you could have 16 different preset shots from an NDI camera. I had my cameras lined up here, 1 camera, 2 camera, 3 camera, and 4 camera, and then I had my presets for each of those cameras lined up underneath. I was switching multiple PTZ cameras on the top with all the presets I had at the bottom, and it made it easy to both see what was coming and where I wanted to go. As I said, the TriCaster has had years of figuring this stuff out and, working with people who are using the TriCaster to develop the best workflow and make it work in a way that makes sense and is obvious. This interface is standard. So if you're used to working in this interface with your sources, your preview, your program bus, your multi-view window, preview and program over there on the right, this is what you get with the TriCaster. This is the TriCaster interface. It doesn't matter if you spend $21,000 for a control surface and you spend $10,000 or you buy a used one from 10 years ago. This is what you're going to get. This is a standard. And NewTek used to actually have a license, a training program where you could get TriCaster certified, and then you would be on their list of operators in various cities. So it's like, oh, I need a TriCaster operator, a certified TriCaster operator in Chicago on this date. You can look on that list, contact the person, and they've gone through training. Actually taken tests, passed the tests on how to use this, and you can go there confident in knowing that they're going to sit right down and do everything you need to be done because they know it. One of the options I did recently was you can actually set it up so that you don't even need to use this. Let me click over here. You don't even need to use the preview and program bar. You could just click on the inputs, just tap, 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 tap. And if you're working on if you added a touch screen to the TriCaster, you just like tap this, tap that, tap this, tap that. So you're working like an all-in-one, except you've got the horsepower of a real computer. I will actually back out of it and show you how it boots up too, because it's actually kind of interesting. So we're going to exit out of this show. It's just a demo show. And you can do different things here. You can manage your shows. You can create graphics. I'm going to back out of this again. You can see different shows. So if you have different talk shows with different graphics, different virtual sets, different video playback, all those different things can be saved in different sets. You can add on things. You can create a new session from scratch. I'm going to go to shutdown, and I'm going to restart the TriCaster here. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I wanted to demonstrate that the nice thing is it's going to automatically go right back into the show that you did last. So here it is. You can see this is booting up PNY GeForce GT740. Yes, honest to goodness, that's old hardware. And it does so much. Launch TriCaster. I'm still not touching it. It's just going to go right into it after so many seconds. And, so one of the key things is you think about in terms of deploying a team to a live event that you've set up. You did your tech checks and you built the show and you've got your graphics loaded for the client and all that stuff. You did all that in your studio. And then you go out to the hotel. You put this on the table, you hit the power button, and you walk away. So here it is. You can see at the top, I'm going to be opening that thing in 11 seconds. I haven't done anything. I literally put it on the table. It knows what my last show was and is going to literally cycle through and open that show by itself. So that means that I don't have to have somebody sitting there doting over the computer to make sure that everything opens like it's supposed to. The TriCaster is, like I said, designed and refined and built for people who do this for a living. And it's going to, yeah, this part takes a while. So that you can focus on getting your camera set up, working with the client and, making sure that, your audio and everything is set up. And then here we are, we're back in the show exactly where I left it. I can come down here and start my pre-show playback and then go to DDR1. There it goes. And now that's, playing back. And then I can come up here and I can hit the stream button. I can hit the record button and we're off to the races. Down here, you've got 2 different encodes for stream. Right now, I've got them set to record the stream, but you can send them to various social media, RTMP, wherever you want. What do I want to, this is my preset. This is the content, the video, the codec, the bit rate, the frame rate, the quality, the audio settings, and everything. Okay, so I've got my output 1 and my output 2. And I close that. Right click here. I can configure my outputs so that I've got my stream is taking from mix 1, my stream 2 is taking from mix 2, and I can say, well, is that my master? No, I want to have something else over here. I can pull from any of my aux outputs too. So I have the ability to send multiple things. You have these mix and effects buses, 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. They're like additional submixers. So if I click on mix 1, M&E1, I should say, it's like a sub switcher. So I can have something switching between other inputs up here, going out ME1, and then set ME1 as one of those outputs. So that can be a completely separate switch than what my main program is. And ME1 is different than ME2, which is different than ME3. Well, here, let me change them. Here's ME3, here's ME2, let's change it to here, and then here's ME1. ME1, ME2, Mix and Effects 3, Mix and Effects 4. So I have 4 of those available, and I can send those out separately, completely separate mixes. And then, like I said, if you have a Stream Deck, or you can use a control surface, and you can access those things, also via a web interface too, you can access those sub switches, and you can give those sub switches to someone else. So 4 different people can be switching 4 different shows through one TriCaster. I mean, technically down here is a 5th switch, as long as you don't want to use one of those separate MEs. But that is just one of the functionalities that's built in here. And this is where I usually build my, I don't think I have one built. This is where I usually build my virtual sets up here. And then you can go from a camera by itself. Let's just go to camera 5, 4, 5. You can go from a camera by itself and then go to mix and effect here that has that virtual set, and then just be like, okay, dissolve to that set, and then that set would be available. That is, again, one of the things I wanted to have set up for the show, but I just didn't have the time because I was on a trip this past weekend. I was going to ask about virtual sets. It can do real virtual moves or static pictures like Vmix. It can do real virtual moves. You can, in the virtual sets that are built into the TriCaster, have a wide shot with me in a big room and 2 monitors, and then you can push in on that virtual set and me, and it will track me and the virtual set together. So it's dealing with all of that in a higher resolution and outputting HD. So the virtual set and me being composited is being done separate from just the output resolution, so that the virtual set, when you zoom in on the virtual set, it doesn't get blocky and icky. I will take this opportunity to say thank you for tuning into today's show. I do these shows. Again, these shows are not sponsored. There's nobody underwriting them. This has not been a paid ad by NewTek or VizRT or a reseller to put this show on. It is gear that I use, gear that I have, and I put this show together on my own to introduce people to the technology. You can subscribe, like, and do all those fancy things to the StreamTech channel. That helps me out. You can see there's today's live show and other shows before that. And you can also join on the StreamTech page. I appreciate you all being here. I thank you for tuning into these live shows, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.